Hey guys, just a couple of things before we start. First of all, we want to welcome Eliav's dad. Great to have him with us. Okay. Second of all, we'd like to compliment Zevi and Amitai on their shirts. Way to go. Okay. Third of all, where's Yitzchak Bick? Okay. We have had, I didn't realize, guys, the implications of Evan Shraga's move this week. One implication is he is obviously no longer the bearded one. But the second implication, what? He's the mustachioed one, yeah. But the second implication is that Yitzchak Bick no longer has the best mustache in the yeshiva. Okay. All right, it happens. Okay, so now that Perm's gone, we're going to move into pre-Pesach mode. And we are going to discuss, I think, an interesting topic about the status of matzah eating. Now, one of the things to realize, guys, is we're used to something halachically, but even though we're used to it, let's see if it's so obvious this should be the case. So let's talk about the following, guys. What is the status, what are you guys used to, of eating matzah after the first night in Israel or after the first 2 nights in Chutz La'aretz? What are you used to? What is the status of halachic status of eating matzah? It is a reshut, as Noam Walkenfeld says, which means, let's do a little survey, which is curious. Who here in the room loves eating matzah? We got a few, very good. Who here hates eating matzah? There we go. Okay, so let's hear Gabriel. And you both hand and machine, you hate both? Yeah. Okay, wow. You're a very intolerant fellow. Okay, so so he's okay halachically. Why is he okay? He just has to make it through a kazayit or some kazayit the first night and the second night. What could Gabriel do in theory the rest of Pesach? Well, as long as he doesn't eat chametz, he's okay. Let him eat all kinds of other things. He'll eat a lot of meat and potatoes. He will, eat various fruits and vegetables. He just doesn't have to eat matzah. Okay, that's what we're used to. Okay, but let us see if that is so obviously the case. Okay, and it often pays, I've said this many times, guys, even when you're doing a Gemara halachic topic, it's always good to start with the psukim. And even not just the psukim, but even the psukim and some of the commentaries on it, because I think that sets the stage. Jamie Fader, you okay with that? Okay. So, what? Then I would make fun of him more. Okay. By the way, guys, it's obviously cold today because Mayor Ross is wearing his winter hat.
It is cold today.
Okay, here we go. So what does the pasuk actually say? So both in Shmot and Vayikra, we'll do the Vayikra one because it's more clear. In Vayikra Chav Gimel, the famous section about the Chagim, it says, Shivat Yamim Matzot Ochelu. You eat matzah for 7 days. I think we'd all agree that, what's the simplest reading of that pasuk? There's a concrete mitzvah to eat matzah for 7 days, right? That's what it sounds like. Shivat Yamim Matzot Ochelu. Okay, now where do things get a little tricky? So in another passage about the Chagim, in Parshat Re'eh, Yoni, did we lose Choni? Oh, there he is. Choni, you must have learned this many times, right? The Chagim passage in Re'eh? Okay, because I assume they call on you on Yom Tov a lot, right? Okay, excellent. Okay, so what does it say over there? So in Re'eh, there's a little bit of a surprising pasuk. This is Dvarim Tet Zayin, where the pasuk says, good, no more convulsed, very, very good. The pasuk says, Sheishet Yamim Tochal Matzot, Uvayom HaShvi Atzeret Lashem Elokecha Lo Tasem Lacha. Eat matzah for 6 days, and on the 7th day, it's some kind of atzeret, some kind of day that you stop work and things like that, fine. But as Noam says, wait, all of a sudden you're eating matzah for 6 days. So that already shakes things up. Like we had the 7-day command in Vayikra, and in Shemot for that matter, and here we have a 6-day command. We're good, guys? Okay, now before we get to Chazal, though, as I said, let's check out the Mefarshim on Chumash. Let's see what they have to say. So let us go to the Bechor Shar, because maybe there are ways to read this pasuk where you could kind of almost neutralize, right, the 6-day. Okay, I'm gonna tell you, good? Well done. Okay. I said, Moshe, you could have ruined it for all of Jewish history, but it's okay. Okay, so let's go to the Bechor Shar. Okay, so what does the Bechor Shar say? Sheish yomim tochal matzot yom shviat atzeret, shetiatzur mi'asot melacha, don't do work, musaf al achilat matzah. In addition to the fact that And see how he's reading it? What's Sheshet Yomim Telchal Matzot Uv'Yom HaShvi Atzeret? Eat matzah for 6 days, and on the 7th day, in addition to eating matzah, there is an atzeret quality. So wouldn't you agree if the Bechor Shor is right? You totally neutralize the problem, right? Dvarim is not giving you a different message. It is also saying, eat matzah for 7 days. Okay, so realize there might be alternatives to dealing with the 7-6 problem. Okay, we're going to see, in fact, 3 alternatives. Okay, next. EGS, you doing well? Is yeshiva easier or harder with the short hair? About the same? Okay. Okay. Why is it easier? Okay. I thought like your tefillin fit more snugly. Okay. So in any case, let's go on. Okay. Rabotenu amru shilkach nemer sheshet yamim. Okay. Does everyone know how to pronounce the next 2 words? I'll give you in, guys. It's not chodesh. Da'achadash kai. Guys, if you get this, you are really Talmudically knowledgeable. What is his second solution? The reason why it's 6 is because it's relating to chadash. What is he getting at? Oh, Ethan Silver, look like you have a chance there. What? Now, guys, who here, okay, well, this is like good general halachic knowledge that most people who grow up in contemporary world do not know. Guys, if you live in, I don't know, 5 towns, maybe there's one in Teaneck also, we'll find out in a second. Did you ever pass a pizza store bakery that says, we use yashan flour? Okay, anyone have any recollection of that? Is there one in Teaneck that does that? I don't know. Okay? No, Moshe, great neck?
I mean, I know people who keep kebab yashan, but I don't know.
Okay, so guys, there is a halacha that you don't eat from the new grain till you bring the karban ha'omer. And you brought the karban ha'omer on the 2nd day of Pesach. And arguably the same halacha exists even without a Beit HaMikdash. And what would it depend on now? Not the karban per se, but the calendar date. So I can't eat chadash till I get to the 2nd day of Pesach. Now, I'm not going to get into why right now. The overall majority of Am Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz is not zealous about this. So that's why they don't worry about the bakery. But those Jews who are careful about this, they will only eat if they know that, they're using yashan flour till the right date. Okay, we're good, guys? But if that's true, who can tell me what he's doing now? Why is it 6 days of matzah eating? If I restrict the matzah to matzah that's made from the new grain, right? Because think about it. When can I start eating chadash? On day 2. So if I start on day 2, indeed, it is 6 days. Okay, we're good, guys? Now, again, you might say, why should we focus just on chadash? It's a reasonable question. I'm just pointing out it's another way to kind of neutralize the discrepancy. Okay, so you already have 2 ways to claim that we shouldn't get all caught up in the Sheshet Yamim. We could reconcile it with 7 days. Okay, number 3, guys, very exciting. We're going to have even a 3rd reconciliation. Let us go to the Chizkuni in source 2. Davar achar sheshim tochal matzot, einu omer lotzi yom shvi michal acherem. We're not trying to knock out day 7. Elkai, v'achi kamar. What does it say earlier in the Devarim passage? Ufanita baboker v'alachta lo alecha. What would that mean, guys? Ufanita baboker v'alachta lo alecha. What's ufanita? What's a term? Yeah, very good. Who was that? Excellent. Jamie is an underrated Hebraeus, by the way, guys. He's underrated in general. Okay, so you turn in the morning. Azriel, you're giving the thumbs up there, huh? Look, you see, Jamie, you have a supporter over here. Okay, v'alachta lecha, and you go back home. When do you think that's happening? Ufanita baboker v'alachta lecha. Maybe it's happening after. Well, when do you have to be in kind of Yerushalayim vicinity? Maybe the first day when you're doing the Korban Pesach. Maybe after the first day's over, in theory, ufanita baboker v'alachta lecha. You could go back home. You go back to Beit Shemesh. Wait, but if that's true, if that's already happened in the passage, where's the starting point for the count? Again, day 2. So what's it saying? Eat matzah for the 6 remaining days after ufanita baboker. So just to sum up, if someone wanted to claim that there is a mitzvah to eat matzah for 7 days, we now have 3 ways of reconciling, right, the 6 days with the 7. Again, 3 ways. Bechor Shor number 1, the pasuk was never excluding day 7. It was v'yom hashvi. There is also atzeret. Bechor Shor number 2, it's 6 days of chadash eating. There is 1 day of yashan eating. Chizkuni, it's 6 days following ufanita baboker. Okay, so those who want to say it's 7 days, we're in good shape. We'll get to Chazal in a second. Okay, Josh will leave us. You're only allowed to eat what? Which carbon? No, much less. Where you get that from? In fact, I'll prove to you that it's not the case. Okay, here we go, guys. So there's this weird phenomenon in Jewish history, not Jewish history, in Jewish elementary school, where somehow the coolest thing is to have the Seder that went the longest. Never really sure how that developed, right? But everyone's bragging in 7th grade. No, we went till 2:30, right? You less serious people only went till 1:48, right? Correct? Is that true in like every elementary school in Judaism? Ariel, they do that in England too? Yeah. Okay. Amitai, do they do that in Holland? Okay, see guys, you can't escape it. Now we need Yitzchak Bick again. We have to check see, maybe in France they don't do it. Okay, but in any case, that's a classic, right? However, some of you do a really late Seder might have to deal with a little bit of a halachic challenge. What is the halachic challenge you might be dealing with? Ariel? Remember that, guys? What if you're makbid to eat afikomen before chatzot? Then you do not have endless time to have discussion because, there's a lot of stuff going on in the Seder. And getting to afikomen before chatzot might not be so easy. Right? Now, who knows why you'd want to eat the afikomen before chatzot? Where would that idea come from? Well, what's the afikomen kind of a symbolic substitute for? Nathaniel? Korban Pesach. So wait, Josh, leave us. What is that clearly assuming? You do not have endless time to eat the Korban Pesach. In fact, you might have to eat it before chatzot. Okay? So I think you're thinking of something else altogether. We're all good, guys? Yeah? Moshe? I guess there's some people in this room who do that. Well, let's try it out, guys. Whose family does that? Rushes to get to afikomen, and then all of a sudden things grind to a halt. Adil, you guys do that? There you go, see? Adil Livnat, his family manages to eat afikomen on time and still win the elementary school competition. What time do you guys finish? Okay, there you go. Now, I'm just curious, maybe does Chabad have like special tunes for Nirtza? Maybe that's what takes a long time. Oh, that's a good point. Well, I'm sorry, Adil, you'll forgive me, right? Are there any like Rebbe songs for Nirtza? Okay, there we go. Now we know why Chabad. Oh, you know what? I have a great parallel, Adil. Here's a great parallel, guys. Who here has davened at a regular weekday Shachris at Chabad? A bunch of you? Okay, do you ever notice that somehow after you do Valatzion, it seems to take 12 minutes? Right, is that correct? Where like in a regular minyan, it takes like 3 minutes, and you're kind of wondering like, what are they saying? I'm right? Okay, so guys, check it out. I was actually in Atlanta when this happened. I was in Atlanta for my nephew's wedding, and we davened at Chabad, not like in the, not where like Rabbi Starshul is, in the other neighborhood. Your neighborhood, right? What's it called again? Sandy Spring. We davened in Chabad, and I'm sitting there in Shachris, and like Shachris is going on forever. So one of my relatives, who's also there for the wedding, comes over and says, you know what davening Shachris Chabad is like? It's like the NBA playoffs, right? The last 2 minutes takes forever. Okay, I thought that was a very good analogy. Okay, so maybe Seder night similar. Maybe Chabad Seder night, they just have all those things at the end. Okay, but in any case, Korban Pesach is only till Chatzot. Now, if you're not going to make it, how to deal with that halachically is a good question, but not for us right now. Okay, next. However, this is all as opposed to what actually happens halachically. Because what do we actually paskin like? So let's look at Pesachim. No, Morkeveld, this is what you asked me about. Source 3. Tanya kavat Rava, sheishim tochal matzot yom sheyetzar l'shem l'kacha. How does the Gemara want to take it? Mashvi reshut, af sheishet yamim reshut. It says, no, it takes 6 days literally. The 7th day is only an option, but then it reads that back. And what does it want to claim? Oh, if the 7th day is an option, actually, all the days are optional. Now, there's a halachic mechanism at work here, but I'm sorry, Noam, I'm not going to explain it for now. We're just going to take it at face value. But then you might say, wait, then it shouldn't even be a command on the first night, right? So look, skip now a little bit, guys, to the third line. Yachol af laila rishon reshut. Maybe even the first night's voluntary. Tamar lomer amatzot umorim yochlu. Now, what's that about? What's the subject of that? Al matzah ramom yochluhu. Eat it. What's it? Excellent, Josh. The Korban Pesach. So you see, you have to eat it. But now comes something very interesting. I mean, how in theory could I interpret the mitzvah of eating matzah? It is only a mitzvah as an appendage to the Pesach, which would mean today it wouldn't be a mitzvah. At least not a mitzvah d'oraita. Talmud lomar be'erev tochlu matzot. And apparently be'erev tochlu matzot is independent of Korban Pesach. Okay, so again, you might say now, Rabbi, you should just forget all those mefarshim on Chumash, because what is the Gemara's conclusion? It is a mitzvah on night one, and the rest of the time it is only a reshut. But now we're going to see something quite interesting, guys. Okay, which I would like to expand to other things. It just gives you some good food for thought. No pun intended. Okay, so here we go, guys. We are all used to a distinction between pshat and drash in the narrative sections of Chumash. I shouldn't say we're all used to it. Most of us are used to it, right? Especially if you went to, actually no, in Barkai you're not used to it because you've never heard of drash. Okay, but most of us are used to a distinction between pshat and drash. What would that mean? In pshat, Paro's daughter did not actually have her hand magically extend, but she sent out her Amma, namely, she sent out her maidservant. However, according to the drash, her hand was miraculously extended to get Moshe. Okay, so we're all used. Did you hear that ever in your life before this year? What's going on? What's all this encounter with Midrash, Henry?
No, I just heard it.
Okay. See, you can't, you know what it shows? You can't really practice cultural isolation. It just doesn't work. Like at some point, like things filter in. Okay, so in any case, okay, but what about in halachic passages? Now, I think there'd be a little bit of more of a hesitancy, right? Since it actually leads to our practice, we won't like the idea so much of there being a pshat level distinct from the drash level. And indeed, to be honest, there are some Rishonim who have that split. There are some Rishonim that if it's narrative, they'll distinguish between pshat and drash. If it's halacha, they will not. However, I've been more and more intrigued over the years that maybe even in halacha, there could be meaningfulness to the pshat. Now, obviously not that it changes the halacha. We'll still go with the drash halachically. Maybe the pshat still teaches you something. Okay, and now, if that's true, guys, maybe we don't have to throw what we saw before. What do we see before? The idea that you can maintain, despite the Sheshet Yamin Pasuk, the idea that there really is a 7-day mitzvah to eat matzah. So maybe even given this source, maybe we'll see that it's not so clear. There might be something to the 7 days. Okay, Moshe. Mm-hmm. Well, that was in Dvar Mosar? Yeah. Okay, good. Does that, you're right, it's the same passage, but does it change the problem from Vayikra versus Dvar?
Well, it clarifies.
I mean, you're saying now there's even more reason to take the 7 days seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough, very good. Excellent, Moshe. Okay, so is there a way to take the 7 days more seriously? So let us look at, actually, no, before we get there, before we get to way to take the 7 days seriously, I want to just do one more contrast. Now, there are a lot of parallels between matzah and eating in a sukkah. Because similarly, guys, what would we say about the mitzvah to eat in a sukkah? When do you absolutely have to? The first night, or in Chutz La'aretz, the first 2 nights. What if, we'll go back to Gabriel, what if he not only hates eating matzah, he hates eating in a sukkah? So what could he in theory do on a day of Chol HaMoed Sukkot? What could he in theory do? Eat a lot of shahako, bar breit, bar adama, and in theory, he does not have to eat in the sukkah. So you guys could tell me that matzah and sukkah are exactly parallel. There's a chiyuv the first night, but just a voluntary performance after that. Can anyone think of a halachic detail that guys? I would want to say this, guys. I was first going to say just Gemara, then I was going to say or of analysis. I'm going to say all of life. All of life is the ability to make subtle distinctions. If you can't make subtle distinctions, you should just throw in the towel. Okay, so here we go. What is, despite what I just said, guys, what is the distinction between matzah and sukkah? Even though I just said you have a chiyuv night one and not after that. Adil. Okay, Teshuvah, but yeah. Okay, so wait, but you're equating or distinguishing? Okay, but what? Very good. You're on the right track, guys. Give me something in our practice that shows the distinction. Yaakov. Okay, that is true. That is the distinction. But even according to Ashkenazim, they're not obligated. It's just that Ashkenazim would make a bracha. Okay, yeah. All right, let's try the following, guys. Let's try the following. Okay, let's say I'm not Gabriel. I actually love eating in the sukkah. What? Okay, fine. I'm Gabriel. I hate eating matzah, but I love eating in the sukkah. You have a nice sukkah there in your backyard? Where do you live again? Yeah. Okay, excellent. You're not worried about your anti-Semitic next door neighbors? I'm just kidding. They're obviously all. Okay. Okay, so do you have Orthodox Jews on both sides of you? I do not. Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, do you have Jews on both sides of you? Only one. Okay, wow. What block you on? Farragut Drive. Okay. So in any case, okay, Gabriel says, it's going to be great, guys. I'm going to serve burgers and buns. Everybody in Teaneck, come over. Okay. What would they do when they start the meal? Someone just said, right? They would make hamotzi and leishe basukah, right? Even though it's day 3 of Chol HaMoed. And if he's serving matzah on day 3 of Chol HaMoed, how many bracha would they make? What does that show you guys? That certainly in the case of sukkah, I think it fits with what Yael said, I am fulfilling some kind of mitzvah by eating in the sukkah. True, I could sneak out of it if I wanted to. I could just serve fruits and vegetables. But when I eat in the sukkah, I'm doing a kiyum mitzvah, right? I say asher kitchanu mitzvah v'tzivanu. However, in matzah, it seems like I am not. So this is all going in one direction, guys. Following Chazal, the claim that matzah is only a mitzvah the first night, and even sukkah seems to be more is going on, right? I do make a bracha on days after the first and second day. Okay, well, good so far, guys? Okay, but now for the dramatic shift to this year. Yes. Oh, wait, I have to say it. Amitai Kader. You always get the last name also. Yeah.
Do Sephardim also make a bracha after the first 2 days?
Yes, that was a very good question. Because it's not even, I would say, fulfillment of Reshut, but I think in a certain sense, I am obligated, as Adiel said, in Basukah Teshvu for all 7 days. Let's try it this way, guys. Actually, let's get lumdish for a second. If I really am obligated Basukah Teshvu for all 7 days, why can I eat an apple outside the sukkah? Exactly. What am I supposed to do? Treat the sukkah as your house. What's the claim? But you'd also nosh outside the house. So it's not that Basukah Teshvu Shivat Yamim ceases to be operative. It's that even when it's operative, there's the option of eating outside the house. So that's why it's not like a woman eating in a sukkah. That's why even Sephardim would make a bracha. Very good question, Amitai. Okay, everybody good with that? Okay, here we go. Now things get exciting. Okay, so as you guys know, one of the most important achronim is the Gra, Rav Elio from Vilna, the Vilna Gaon. And he was a very, very independent thinker. So he was willing to disagree with a lot of earlier authorities. That was the nature of the Gaon. And we get his positions from 2 places. One is he wrote a commentary on Shulchan Aruch. However, you could ask the guys in my Shiur. Okay, he is extremely cryptic. So it's not so easy in his commentary on Shulchan Aruch to figure out, right, Choni? Figure out what he means. However, there's a fascinating sefer, in case you've ever heard of. There's a sefer called Maserav. You know about it, Micha? Okay, this is not one of your 2 weaknesses, which is 500 years of Jewish history and, what did we say yesterday, Tuesday? What was his weakness on Tuesday? What was it, Josh? Oh, man. We forgot your second weakness. Oh, it was Billy Joel. Yeah, Billy Joel, that's right. That's it. 500 years of Jewish history and Billy Joel. Okay, but in any case, no, fine, you got to get that down for the Orayta history. Okay. So, guys, sorry, we have wonderful alumni here, Noah Fine, who is also the Orayta historian. So if you want to talk to him afterward, you want random facts about the history of Orayta, he is your man. Okay, so in any case, wait, what was I in the middle of there? The Gra. What is Maserav? So students of the Gra cataloged the Gra's halachic practice. So a lot of Minhagei Gra we might not get from the commentary on Shulchan Aruch, but we'll get from the Sefer Maaseh Rav. Now, I admit, sometimes I've encountered certain Gra purists who say, if the Gra didn't write it, I don't like it as a source. But I don't think I'd be such a purist, right? I don't assume the students got it wrong, because they were pretty dedicated to the Gra, right? So I wouldn't be such a purist. So let's see what it says in the Maaseh Rav here in source 7. Okay, and obviously the title makes sense, right? Why is it called the Maaseh Rav? Because they're quoting the actions and the practice of the rabbi, namely the Gra. Look what it says here, guys. Shivat yamim tochel matzot. Okay, this is going to be very exciting for those of you who love matzah. Kol shiva, mitzvah. What did he just say? For 7 days. So wait, why did but he's not going to argue with the Gemara. The Gemara called it a reshut. The einu kori la reshut, ela legabe laila rishona. Turning the page, shehi chova. What do we mean reshut? Reshut only in contrast to something that is obligatory. But guess what, guys? There's 3 halakhic categories in life. Chova means you're obligated. Reshut means, actually there's 4. Guys, could be usher. Reshut means it's an option. What's in between reshut and chova? Mitzvah. Good. Someone said the word kiyum. Sometimes it's referred to as a mitzvah. Who said kiyum? Very good. What would be a mitzvah kiyumit? I don't have to do it, but when I do it, it's not neutral. It is a mitzvah. So says the Gra, everyone's been getting it wrong for years. They thought after night 1, eating matzah is purely reshut. It's no different than eating an apple. It's not true. It's not a chiyuv, but it's an ongoing mitzvah. Okay, now before we get to more arguments, what I like about the Gra from a Chumash perspective, couldn't you agree, guys, that he might kind of be bringing Pshuto Shel Mikra back into play? Right, because what's he saying? The drasha tells you you're not chayav after night 1, but we still say, nevertheless, what does the pasuk say? Shivat yamim matzot tochelu. I'm still going to find meaning in that pasuk. What's the meaning? That for 7 days, it is a mitzvah. Okay, so those who like eating matzah, you can now feel great about it. You're always doing a mitzvah. One more comment, guys. I can't resist this because it's just a good aspect of Orthodox Judaism in America. Okay, so if you've ever been to a Met or Yankee baseball game during Chol HaMoed, okay, Ariel, see, you missed out. I bet there's no parallel in England. I bet even going to Tottenham Hotspur is not parallel. Okay, so what do you notice there, guys? So Jews are, of course, off for Chol HaMoed. So many Jews go. So it's kind of funny because you look around the stadium and you almost hear the crackle of matzah, right? That all these people, right? I don't have this experience besides me, right? You go to there you go. Say GBS, am I exaggerating? Okay, there you go. Right, so you look around and there's a ton of people with their matzah sandwiches, right? I guess the kosher stand's probably closed, right? Kosher stand's open? Really? Wow. So, wow, it's worth it for them to kosher for Pesach. Wow, fascinating. Wait, do they serve like hot dogs and matzah? Oh, they probably use like those fake rolls, right? The potato rolls. Wow, see guys, we Jews, we've made it in America. On Chol HaMoed, you can see guys, imagine this. Imagine if you told your ancestors in Poland the following thing. One day in America, you can get hot dog in a bun at the local baseball game. They would say, that's ridiculous. That's never going to happen. Okay? Sorry, you can get hot dog in a bun at the local baseball game. What? I'm sorry?
They wouldn't know what any of those things are.
Yeah, cause I understood that. Okay. Okay, I didn't even say it as powerfully as possible. You can get hot dog in a bun on Pesach at the local baseball stadium. Okay, what an amazing thing. Okay, but in any case, according to the Gra, you are fulfilling a mitzvah every time you do that. Ezra. Very good. So the Jews, Ezra's right. I wasn't 100% thorough because other factors might force you to eat matzah on Pesach. But I would say it's extraneous factors, though. Like, what's an extraneous factor that might force even Gabriel? Okay, but one of those Chol HaMoed days is Shabbos. On Shabbos, you're supposed to have hamotzi. So lo and behold, he will end up eating matzah as well. But again, guys, I would emphasize, but you're not eating matzah. So I guess I have to do it. Not eating matzah qua the responsibility to eat matzah. You're eating matzah qua the need to have hamotzi. Right, so it is true you will end up having matzah, but not to fulfill the mitzvah of matzah. Okay, EGS. Oh, that's a really good question. Why you don't make a bracha according to the Gra? That is a good question. Okay, well, I'm going to duck it for now, but that was an excellent question. Right, guys, you haven't got to EGS? He says, wait, if it's a reshut, we know where there's no bracha. But even if it's a mitzvah kiyumit, right, in theory, we'll go back to Yaakov Shuman's good point. Just like an Ashkenazi woman would make a bracha on sitting in the sukkah and eating, so maybe Ashkenazi men should make brachot on eating matzah if you're the gra after night one. Yeah, Noam.
Are there other examples in the Gemara of them using the language of reshut for something that is still?
Very good question. Very good question. I feel like there is one, but it's not coming to me right now. Is there a Gemara that says Ma'im achronim chova, Ma'im rishonim reshut, or it says mitzvah? All right, I have to look it up. There's one is lurking in my mind, but I don't have everybody wait while I try to find it in brachot. It says mitzvah, not reshut? Okay, so forget it. It's not a good example. Okay, yeah. Who else had a hand? We're good? Yeah, Adil.
I believe the Shulchan Aruch says that on Kol HaMoed you have to have a Suda. He said once b'diavad, but twice. So would that imply that Matza is a mitzvah?
Okay, that's really interesting. I'm just curious when they got the. By the way, it's very interesting because it wouldn't be the only time that the Lubavitch Rebbe and the Gra are parallel, which is fascinating because the Gra was an opponent of Chassidut. But there are some very interesting parallels between them despite that. But here's my question for you, though. I want to look it up inside. Is that because of granting more significance to eating matzah or giving more significance to Chol HaMoed? You see what I'm asking? Because if it's Chol HaMoed, it's similar to Ezra's case. I will be eating matzah, but not so much for the matzah purpose to give status to Chol HaMoed. Right? You agree with me? You think it's more about Chol HaMoed? Do you have the text in front of you?
I had it a minute ago.
Okay, do you mind finding it? You showed me right after your share?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you very much, Adil. That's very interesting. Yeah.
It says mitzvah, but it says that it's a reshut for my rishonim to do whether on a clear or untargeted.
Okay, so thank you, Moises. First of all, how do you know where the Gemara is? That was very good.
Just Safari and search engine.
Okay, excellent. And it shows you that you made me happy. You know why? Because even though I was wrong, it shows you my memory wasn't crazy. The word reshut was there somewhere. I knew it was lurking there. Okay, we're good, guys? Everybody okay so far? Okay, now let's see if we can bring more evidence for the Gra. Okay, I think it's a very interesting position. So let's read it a little bit more, and let's see if this is good evidence. Afal pikein mitzvah d'oraita. It is a biblical mitzvah. V'chein pirshu yom tov ein tzarich ot. Who remembers where it comes into halachic play, whether something is an oat or doesn't need an oat? Which halacha does that have to do with? Cuz. That's it. You've redeemed yourself, Cuz. Way to go. Okay. It says you're always better at the serious part of Shiur than at the lighthearted part of Shiur. Okay. Okay. Excellent. Okay, see? Okay. No, you're not insulted, right? Yeah. Okay, I don't utilize. Now I'm gonna be in trouble at the next family get together. Okay.
It's just not saying very much.
Okay. All right, forget it. No. Okay. Okay. So okay. In I'm tempted to go further, but I shouldn't. Okay. So in any case, guys, where were we a second ago? Noam's totally right. Why don't we, according to the drasha guys, why don't we wear tefillin on Shabbos and Yom Tov? So the idea is tefillin is called an oat, but so is Shabbos. And somehow you don't need the oat of tefillin if you've got the oat of Shabbat. Okay, so that is the drasha why we don't wear tefillin on Shabbat and Yom Tov. Okay, but now let's get to something really fascinating. Guys, there's a huge debate about this topic. I know my morning shiur knows this. Everyone go to source 10. Okay. You gotta love it, guys. You always love those gray in the middle cases. It's a regular weekday, of course you put on tefillin. It's Shabbos or Yom Tov, of course you don't put on tefillin. What's smack in the middle there, of course? Chol HaMoed. Is Chol HaMoed on the weekday side of the divide, or is it on the Shabbos Yom Tov side of the divide? Okay, so look at source 10 in the Shulchan Aruch. B'chol HaMoed gam kein asur lahaniach tefillin me'atam ba'atzmo shemei chol HaMoed gam heim ot. Says Rav Yosef Karo, nothing doing. No tefillin chol HaMoed. Just like the first day of Sukkot is an oat, so too every day of chol HaMoed has the oat quality. No tefillin. Okay. The Yeshomrim, now we get to the Ashkenazim. The Yeshom shechol HaMoed chayav b'tefillin. So what apparently is the Ashkenazim assume, or at least many Ashkenazim, that Chol HaMoed does not constitute an oath, and therefore you would have to put on tefillin. Now, this is not my topic at all, but I know, I think Moisés knows this for sure, right? The Zohar is adamant that you should not wear tefillin on Chol HaMoed. Okay, it's a very interesting case where the Zohar may have had influence on halacha. Okay, now again, you could come to this argument without the Zohar. We're going to see in a second. You could argue Chol HaMoed qualifies as an oath, and I don't need the Zohar. But you just realize the Zohar is very adamant that don't wear tefillin on Chol HaMoed. Now, I always point this out before I get to comments, guys. Who are the two groups that you would say in the Orthodox world most influenced by Kabbalah? So I would say Sephardim and Hasidim, right? I think it's a no-brainer. Guess what? Both Sephardim and Hasidim do not wear tefillin on Chol HaMoed. That is not an accident. Wait, Henry, you might have to start wearing tefillin now on Chol HaMoed. Okay, so notice now, interesting, because people ask me, was Rav Yosef Kar's Pesach ever influenced by Kabbalah? So it's hard to say he does it explicitly, but I think if you read between the lines, it is often happening. Okay, and here's a good example, right? He just says, don't wear tefillin, Chol HaMoed is an oath, but maybe lurking behind that is, and the Zohar is adamantly against it. Now, Adiel, correct me if I'm wrong, Chabad also doesn't wear tefillin on Chol HaMoed, right? So that fits beautifully, right? Hasidim would be more influenced by Kabbalistic ideas. Okay, Gavi Spinner.
So why do Yakim wear tefillin?
Why? What do you mean why? It fits beautifully. Let's try this, guys. If we say, wait, Gavi Spinner, that wasn't an argument against me, that was an argument for me. If we say Sephardim and Hasidim are the groups most influenced by Kabbalah, who would you say might be the Orthodox group least influenced by Kabbalah? Yes, those German rationalists. They are allergic to mysticism, those Germans, right? Because the German personality type doesn't lend itself to mysticism, right? Correct? Okay, there we go. Okay, is that true at the Dutch also?
To some lesser extent, although it's a very strong Dutch practice to work within Chol HaMoed.
Oh, that is interesting. Okay, and I'll give you an example. Wait, we need Roy Wegline. Is he not here? Roy, you ready? You're going to confirm this for me, okay? I'm pretty sure that the real Yekim don't say Brich Shemay every Shabbat. I think they only say it on Yom Kippur. Roy? They never say it. Not once in the year. Oh, there we go. So Roy Wegline understands. So Brich Shemay is a quote directly from the Zohar. Not surprisingly, the Yekish community does not say it all year. Okay, so Gavi Spinner, you gave me a good proof, right? It makes sense. Thank you. It makes sense, right? Sephardim Ashkenazim are going to follow the Zohar, no tefillin on Chol HaMoed. And Yekim are going to say, we don't follow the Zohar, put on tefillin on Chol HaMoed. In fact, this is really interesting, guys. Okay, do I have time for this? Yeah. Sometimes there's like a very strong minhag Yerushalayim or minhag Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so you might have noticed it this year. What is the very strong minhag Eretz Yisrael about this issue? Very good, guys. Not to put on tefillin. Meaning they'll tell you, even if you put on tefillin in Chutz La'aretz on Chol HaMoed, was anyone told this year? Don't do it in Israel. Like they'll throw you at a shul. Someone in the middle of Hallel is going to start yelling at you if you're wearing your tefillin in on Chol HaMoed. So why that became the very powerful minhag Eretz Yisrael is a good question. But now, Roy Wegline's going to love this. Okay, there is a Yekish minyan in Ramot. Okay, you went once, right? Okay, good. Was it Chol HaMoed? Did you go on Chol HaMoed? They do or they don't? Okay, do they put on tefillin? Meaning even they are scared of the minhag Yerushalayim.
Like, I'm pretty sure the minhag of Yakim in Israel is that if you went to like a regular Ashkenazi shul, you'd wear tefillin but be private. But in the Yakim shul, because it's all Yakim, I assume they wear tefillin.
Oh, so they do wear tefillin. Okay, so someone has to do some research. I would guess that's the one shul in Yerushalayim where they wear tefillin. My father-in-law, who's a super loyal Yek, so my father-in-law won't bring it to shul because he knows he'll be given a hard time. He gets up in the morning, puts on tefillin at home, and says Shema, and then goes to shul without tefillin. Okay, but again, the Yekim are very attached to their minhagim. Okay, who has a comment on that? Yeah, Raymond.
Isn't Kish Labana another example of Kabbalah influencing Sephardic halacha?
Well, except for one thing, the mitzvah to say Kiddush Levana has nothing to do with Kabbalah. It's more the additional parts.
The time, how long they wait.
Yes, correct. That is an example. Okay, very good, Raymond. Why do you know that?
You mentioned it before.
That's the best reason to know something. Okay, excellent, guys. Just to review, for those that don't know, I'm sorry for those who know already, Ashkenazim wait 72 hours after the new moon appears. And that's not based on Kabbalah. That's just based on the thought that let it be a more like respectful light. Like it's just a little sliver, that's not so exciting. After 72 hours, there's real light, so we'll make Kiddush Levana. Sfardim, based on Kabbalistic reasons, wait 7 days. So you might have noticed, wait, I'm sorry, Adil, do Hasidim do 7 days also? Do you know? Micha? There we go again. Maybe it proves the same point once again. Right, so you might have noticed, guys, it's very interesting. It happens to be on my block. My block has a Motzi Shabbos minyan. It's a mixture of Ashkenazim and Sfardim. When Motzi Shabbat is the 5th of the month, what invariably happens? The Ashkenazim stick around and say Kiddush Levana, and the Sfardim say, oh, you Ashkenazim, you don't understand anything. And they wait for Kiddush Levana because it is not yet day 7. Raymond, you are totally correct. That's another example of the same divide. Yes, Azriel. It's a really interesting idea. I've never seen that actually. So if you have a source, I'd love to see it. Okay, so let's go back a second, guys. Now, as I said, even though Kabbalah is playing an influential role here, you could really have the same debate without Kabbalah. So let's try to do it together for a second, guys. What do you think? What's the logic why Chol HaMoed should qualify as an oath? Why Chol HaMoed would not qualify as an oath? What would you guys say if you had to figure out? Forget Kabbalah. You're just thinking halakhically. What makes something an oath, and does Chol HaMoed qualify? Anyone with an idea? Ezra? Okay, good. So you might say the criteria should be Isser Malacha. Now, it's a little tricky, though, because if I say that's the criteria, where would Chol HaMoed fit in? It's kind of in the middle, though, right? Because there are some things that are Asr. But let's, for the sake of argument, say we end up doing a lot of Malacha on Chol HaMoed, and therefore, from an Isser Malacha perspective, it is not a note. That's it. We'll posit that for now. Okay, so then Chol HaMoed, you should put on tefillin. So wait, if we say that, what would make Chol HaMoed an oath? Wait. You guys have nothing? Nothing else could make a note? Let's say it's the 3rd day of Sukkot. Yeah, GBS? Okay, not bad. What about in terms of practice, though? It's the 3rd day of Sukkot. What makes it a note? Okay, Musaf's not bad. Halal's not bad. What about the fact that if you want to eat pizza, you would go to the sukkah? Like the mitzvot still apply. So maybe it's not Isser Malacha that gives it the oat quality. It is the mitzvah. Okay, let's look at 2 things, guys, and we'll call it a day. Okay, so look at Menachot Daf 9. Okay, oh, you know what? There's got to be a mistake. This must be Tosfos and not Menachot. Because it's not a language of Gemara. It's got to be Tosfot. So, guys, let me just check that out now that I said that so confidently. Because the Gemara Menachot's on top of it in source 8. Source 9 must be Tosfot. But let's just get it right for posterity. Menachot Lamed Vav Mebet. And yes, guys, just right on top of that sheet, Tosfot. Okay, here we go. What does Tosfot say? Yatzu Shabbatim Tom Shein Etzim Korot. Lo mishum dasir b'sir malacha. It's not about malacha. Dafilu cholo shel moed deshari b'sir malacha. Ika ot. So he says, no, there's an oat. What's the oat? B'Pesach mishum da'asar ba'achilat chametz uvesukot dechaya b'sukkah. So notice what Tosfot has just done. Tosfot is claiming there is an oat quality on Chol HaMoed Pesach, but what's the oat quality? That you can't eat chametz. And now, guys, to bring us to an exciting conclusion, the Gra thought that not wearing on tefillin on Chol HaMoed Pesach supports his theory. What is he clearly assuming the oat is? Eating matzah. So now things get really interesting, guys. If I want to claim there's an oat, there's 3 things to do now. I should first ask, is there an Isser Malacha? If Isser Malacha is the oat. If there's no Isser Malacha, I should ask, is there a mitzvah that makes it an oat? What do we have so far in Tosfot? Oh, Pesach does have a mitzvah, namely, not eating chametz. What did the Gra clearly think? Pesach has a mitzvah that makes it oat, the mitzvah to eat matzah. And now for the last thing, guys, you guys are all going to get it. Not all, you all. Half of you will get this. Can anyone tell me why the Gra might have a good argument why eating matzah is more convincing than Isser Chametz. And I have a suggestion, because you might say to the Gemara, that's no proof. Ah, excellent. Guys, wouldn't you argue that to be an oat is about sending a message, right? It's hard to be a sign if you're not sending a message. And wouldn't it be much more easy to send a message when you are doing something? Right, we've seen this in many areas of life, right? A lo taseh is not so noticeable, right? Aseh is something that really people will be, it has symbolic significance. So I think lurking here, guys, just to sum up the shiur, and then I'll take closing comments. What do we have here? We see a few really interesting things. Even though the consensus is there's no mitzvah after the first night, the Gra would tell you there's no chiyuv, but there's a mitzvah eat matzah the rest of Pesach. What would the Gra say it based on? So we've seen two things. Maybe some is just reading Chumash. Maybe the Gra says, I'm still using Pshuto Shel Mikra. In Pshuto Shel Mikra, it indeed said, Shivat Yamim, Tochal Matzot. So maybe it's not a chiyuv, but it's still a mitzvah. What was the Gra's other point? Anybody who thinks you don't wear tefillin on Pesach, he's convinced Isser Chametz can't be the oat because no one sees Isser Chametz. It's not actively performed. Achilat Matzah could be the oat. But that could only be if there's a mitzvah to eat matzah. So these are supports for the famous shita of the Gra. Okay, JJ.
I think they say the first thing that makes an oat is Isser Malacha.
Well, that was one possibility. You're right. Okay, that was very good, JJ. JJ's totally right. Anybody who says Isser Malacha, or for that matter, Isser Chametz, is clearly rejecting what I said just now. They think you could be a great oat, even though it's an absence of doing something. So, JJ, you're right. I can't say that everybody agrees with that, but I think the Gra could make a pretty strong case. I think one could claim you need a positive act to be an oat, but you're totally right. Very good point, JJ. Anybody who's using Isser Malacha is clearly not assuming that. All right, anybody else with a comment? We're good, guys? Yeah? All right, everybody have a wonderful Shabbat, and we will sneak in one more Shiur Klali before this man ends.